Okay, I think I'm good now. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. How are you?
I'm good, man. Do you want to be seen or no? It's up to you.
Nah, I'm all right.
All right, cool.
In the dorm, kind of messy.
I hear you. Well, it's podcast people. I post them on YouTube, but really, it's only for
Hmm.
my tech person to pull the sound out of it anyway. So
Yeah.
until I get some bells and whistles like TV replays and a studio, I
Hmm.
don't know if it's ever going to be that awesome on YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
So, Kierson, hey, tell us about yourselves. I did a tiny intro. I just did my basic saying, I only know you from what I've seen on Instagram, but I saw a lot of
Hmm.
posts just recently about you. I don't know that I've crossed your path before, but I have seen, quite a few jumpers over the last 5 or 6 years, kind of
Yeah.
come in and come out. So, I saw you were, was it D2 that you were competing at?
Yeah. D2 Nationals.
Awesome. For what school are you competing at?
McKendree
McKendree, and
University,
where is that?
smaller school in Illinois, Lebanon,
Illinois.
Illinois. Yeah,
Okay,
pretty small school.
awesome. And what year are you at that school?
I'm a freshman.
A freshman. Okay, awesome. And then, so did you go to school in Illinois as well in high school?
I went to school in Missouri,
Missouri.
in like St. Louis area. It's called Oakville.
Okay. And then, what did you do in high school athletically? Were you just track and field, or did you play basketball, football?
So I came into Oakville playing three sports until my sophomore year. I was playing soccer, basketball, and then track freshman, sophomore year. Sophomore year, I dropped soccer because I was just kind of
Mhm.
losing my passion for it.
Right.
And then I really wanted to lock in on track. So my senior year, I went ahead and dropped basketball as well to just prevent injury going into the season and whatnot. And overall, I think that was a good choice for me.
Okay. And then did you do just high jump, or did you do other events in high school?
So with track, I was in the 4x1 my sophomore, junior, and part of my senior year. And I also, tried out experimental with long jump, experimental with triple jump, but I found my real passion in the high jump. Mark wise, our 4x1, we weren't that good. My long jump, my sophomore year, I jumped 603, 6 meters,
Hmm.
6.03 meters. So honestly, a pretty decent mark for pretty much my first time ever long jumping.
Right.
But I noticed some pretty immediate back pain just because of how I was landing, and then
Yeah.
uh it stopped right there. And then for triple jump, I think I went like 1289 or 1240, somewhere around that range. Did it one time. Another coach from another school was like, "Man, you're a great high jumper. Don't waste your knees triple jumping. You're just gonna do a lot of damage and whatnot."
Right.
And then that's where high jump comes in. Um, Freshman year, I jumped 5'4" my first meet, found my passion. That year I ended up clearing 5'7" as a freshman, which is never a bad mark. Um, my sophomore year, I went on to clear 6'2". Junior year, very small progression. I cleared 6'4". Then my senior year, I finished with 6'7" before I tore my hamstring in a 4x1.
Mm, okay. And how did that do it? Did you make it all the way to state when you did that, or was that somewhere in the season?
No, so I've actually never competed at state because I would always end up running, and then I've noticed that running is the common factor for me not being able to finish out most of the track seasons I had. But I
Right.
did end up short. I want to say my junior year, we had like some issues with the scoring, and I had to clear 6'6" to go to state, but the guy told me I came fourth, which actually wasn't the case. In reality, I was sixth, but I just got a little comfortable and, kind of brushed off the next few bars and,
Yeah.
didn't go to state that year. And then my senior year, of course, halfway through the season, like before conference, I want to say, I ended up tearing my hamstring at the very end of the relay, and that put
Ugh.
me out for some time. But at
So
least it was a hamstring.
yeah. Yeah, well, the other end of sprinting, right before any of the jumps is it just drains your power, right? So you got to go run a
Yeah.
relay or you got to go do a race and then they hold the bar for you or it's open pit for an hour and a half and you come back, right? So it's probably a little bit
Hmm.
easier in the long jump if they're not calling you in a certain order. But
Yeah.
uh, if they are, you get in trouble with the, you know, I'm always amazed. One of the Kierson, the ongoing theme, anybody's been listening to the podcast for a while, is the necessary evil of having the people run the event. My experience with, excuse me, my experience with the officials has been definitely mixed throughout my career. High school
Hmm.
on, high school, I really don't remember officials that much. Sometimes it was the teachers, right, running the dual meets or whatever. So you either
Yeah.
know from class or something like that, but it was it was never really bad. But you know, um, the higher up, I can't really say much about him in high school. I don't remember, but college, man, we had some really old guys that were doing it, and they were,
Oh yeah.
bless their hearts, they were really trying hard, but they were just so slow. And then, um, I remember my sophomore year when I finally started to jump well. My freshman year was an abomination, but I had jumped. I think I had jumped 7 feet at least once by then. And we had a meet and I jumped 210, 6'10" and 3/4.
Hmm.
And they go, oh, the bar's going up. So, okay, we're going up by fives. I've jumped at 215 a few times now, so I'm ready to go. And you know how your rhythm is you kind of know where you are by the height
Yeah.
and how long you should be in the air and when should you lay out and all that.
Hmm.
And we start jumping at it. And there was literally like four guys left, one of my teammates I remember for sure, then me, and then this guy named Maurice Crumby, who was a three-time state champion in California, jumped 7'5" in high school. He was a year behind me.
7'5" in
Yeah, seven
ice.
five,
That is
7'4" and a
crazy.
half, 7'5", something like that. It's one of the highest marks in
That
the
is
state,
insane.
right? And he went to Arizona. So I was at UCLA and he's
Uh-huh.
in Arizona. So I get thrown in against Crumby again. Here I am. I'm like, I can't get rid of this guy. And I never came close to beating him. So we had
Hmm.
all jumped 6'10" and they say, okay, it's up at 7 feet. So like, all right. And everybody starts missing. And this was a good competition though. Everybody was pretty clean up until that point. And all of a sudden everybody's missing. Miss, miss, miss. And I'm like, I cannot figure this out. Something was wrong. I just couldn't figure it out. So everybody misses, and then Crumby made it on his third attempt, of course, for the win. And I'm like, man, I only jumped 6'10" 3/4 today. I'm like, I'm kind of bummed. I've been jumping better than that recently. So the
Hmm.
referees come back and they go, yeah, the bars go up to 7-2. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm out. He's the only one left. Then he comes back and he goes, oh, sorry about that. We mistakenly put the bar up to 7-2.5, but the bar can't come back down. So you're all out and Crumby wins. And I'm just like going, yeah. I was like,
All right.
come on, man, really? So from that time on, I've always been a little
Uh-huh.
bit, leery of the official.
Skeptical of the officials, but they're getting really technological now. Like since I've been in college, they'll like pull out the laser and whatnot. And of course, in high school, I haven't seen that before. So a few
Mhm.
meets in to get like the very most accurate measurement of the bar. It's pretty
Right.
fascinating how technological some of these meets can get and
And
have
if you've
become.
broken the plane, that would be nice, I guess, if they had a little light that would go on if you, you know, any part of you brushed in between the standards, right, past the plane of the bar.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I saw it at the Olympics, right? They had a little green or red light on the standards, when they missed.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell that they missed, the bar was down, but thanks for the green light or the red light. I always like when they got the flag, you know.
yeah.
The bar's still on, dude. I already know he made it. Here comes the white flag. Thanks. Thanks for clarifying. I
Needed
thought he was
that.
over. I wasn't sure. But anyway, so tell us a little bit now about the school that you're jumping at, how you're enjoying your freshman year and what exactly happened here at the big nationals that you were at.
Well, starting off with just the school itself, like I said earlier, it's a small school in Lebanon, Illinois. There's really not much to do out here. Um, when it comes to just the track and the team, we don't have an indoor facility. So imaginably so, I've improved a lot through minimal practice,
Hmm.
right? And I will accredit that to me being patient over the bar and my coach, of course. And just learning to be patient over the bar. Like I could definitely say if I would knew not to dive my head straight back my senior year, I probably would have walked away from my senior year jumping like I don't know, 6'9", 6'10",
Hmm.
for sure. But yeah, we're like a decently regular school where we're a growing track program, so we have a mix of athletes who, want to go out and do the best they can, and then we also have a mix of athletes who genuinely don't care for the sport anymore, which is, it's kind of rough to have on a team,
Yeah.
right? But you kind of make do with what you have. Um, Overall, like I said, the team's building, so we're not too great. And then some of our better athletes are also battling injury. I'll
Right.
say at the first competition, we had some of our fastest guys all out from hamstrings in the first two meets,
Right.
and we go to conference and whatnot, and then our fastest guy then he gets COVID, of course, the week right before. So he doesn't do too great, but he goes out and he competed, and it just shows character because how you have certain individuals who go 100% no matter what, and then we have some people who will literally just not work out, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it's the sport, I guess. I thought that would have been left in high school, honestly, but apparently not.
Well, it depends
Um,
if scholarship athletes or not too, right? I mean, if you're scholarship and you're doing that, they're gonna take your
yeah,
scholarship money away and send you home. So if they're
yeah,
just like cannon fodder or they're filling out your roster, yeah.
uh, yeah. But for overall performance, um, I mean, hey, I came here jumping 6'7" halfway through the season. Now I'm jumping 7 1/4. I've had some really good attempts. Like I know for a fact, I won't say I know for a fact, but I'm extremely positive that I'll finish this freshman season about 7'3", probably like
Mhm.
7'2", 7'3", because I know I have it in me. I've seen my higher bars at 7'1".
Right.
I've attempted the bar 6 times in total, and every single time I'm flying over it. I just gotta get a little more technical now
Right.
because I don't have that like I can't raw bounce over 7'2" the way that I can raw bounce over 6'6". It's not
Right.
the same.
Yeah.
But my progression is looking really like good rather than just like PR wise, just like consistency wise.
Hmm.
I'll say all the way until all the ooh, actually this entire so the first two meets I came in at 6 feet because I was a little scared. And
Right.
then, I post my videos on Instagram, guys in the comments saying, I think you were people saying he's like, come in at 6'6", right?
Anyway, yeah. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So I got a few comments similar to that. And I'm like, "Okay, let me take that advice because I know I can do it. Go out one meet, come in at 6'6", jump 6'8". And then for the 2 or 3 meets after that, I have not scratched on 6'6" or 6'8" at all
Right.
this entire season. So the consistency is definitely there, coming from
Yeah.
the fact that that was my PR the year prior.
Right.
Um, Now this upcoming meet, we're having our outdoor open. I'm planning this coming even higher now because there's no point in wasting energy. Like at nationals, I went in and I came in at 6'9", and I cleared
Good.
it with space to spare and room for like just slight errors and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that's a height now I can now kind of mess around with. So I'm just gonna keep moving myself, pushing myself. So with the national competition, the meet prior was conference. I went and jumped 6'11 1/2. So almost joined the 7 foot club.
Right.
And that
I
meet,
remember seeing that one. Yeah.
it was a battle. Um, the first jump, 6'9", cleared the first bar. Second attempt, no, second jump was 6'11". Two scratches. And this is my first time like pretty much scratching when I know I shouldn't be scratching in a
Right.
competition. So I'm two scratches in. It's an unfamiliar feeling this season, and I'm nervous. But I go for my third attempt. I jump in and I hit the bar. The bar jumps, but it stays on. So that was very lucky for me. Um, and then we went on to 7 feet. I want to say that this day I had an issue with dropping my head back because I probably just nervousness after the first scratch or two. I'm
Hmm.
in my head now, and then I feel like my approach wasn't as like I must have been doing something a little different in my approach because a lot of the times I end up falling on the bar. So
Hmm.
that's why I also messaged you earlier today, and I was like, I'm having some issues with my higher heights of like literally I'm falling so like when I do clear the bar, I fall so close to the bar still. Like
Yeah,
I know I'm jumping up, it's high jump, whatnot, but like I don't have that. I'm not maintaining and carrying through my speed over the bar.
right.
I did one time at conference, and I want to find consistency in that because it was not there at that meet. And I know I came eighth place, uh, first team All American. Really, I did good. I PR'd and whatnot, but those guys who were there watching me, they could tell that 7 feet was not my mark to stop at. It's just
Yeah,
where I ended up stopping that on that day, and that was a
right.
PR. And I want to say that's it for the national meet. Yeah,
Do you
overall,
do
it's just a
you
good competition.
do you have a couple of your raw videos? We could take those out and look at them because I did the reason that I thought, oh, we can go over it, and then instead of just doing it and talking, which I do sometimes,
Hmm.
I said, hey, it'd be great. That's why I said if you're willing to talk on a podcast, that's cool. And then I've
Hmm.
broken down videos before, and I think it adds the visual element. But I'm a video guy, so if you have anything that's like what I saw the backside of you a couple times on the feed.
Yeah.
I seem to remember. I like the front side better, but I can still pick
Man.
up some things from the
All
backside.
right, give me 1 second because I joined through my computer. That's also why it took a little longer. I was trying to get everything
No worries.
situated there.
Yeah, I'm on my
But
laptop too.
I'm gonna share, I guess, just stream my camera roll or share some of the videos that are on there.
If
And
you can download them on the Instagram, then I can pull them off of Instagram too. I can just
I'll like just send them to you.
yeah, I can airdrop them to myself on
Okay, cool.
Instagram.
I'm gonna do that. So let's see. Um, 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 um. So the first three I'm gonna send you are my attempts at 7-1.
Awesome.
So
So
that's the
those are what the
highest
attempts
bar.
you took after you made 6'11.5.
Uh,
So you went
six
from
eleven on a dot.
Yeah, you went from 211 to
To
214.
14.
Yeah.
Yep. So those three are 7-1. And then I have some other 7-1s somewhere in my camera roll. See if I can find which one it is. It's from the prior meet. Definitely floating over the bar in these. Then I guess I can also show you what I want my form to look like because I have a video where I think it looked pretty decent. 4 second, 4 second.
Yeah,
All right,
I have a
we're
lot
gonna
of
send a lot of them.
videos that I use for reference, for people. And I go, hey, this is what it should look like. That kind of
Hmm.
knee drive or foot plant angle or, lean back or lean away, whatever it is. I'm trying to get that just completely set so I can always just have my go-to stuff ready. I can go, hey,
Uh-huh.
you need to look, like this. Like I'll show Brandon Stark for just running. Because if you
Hmm.
watch Brandon Stark from Australia, basically like an American power jumper, he's just standing there and then he just takes off, like just high cycling knee action and just flying, and like
Yeah,
it goes from 0 to 40 in like 2 steps, it's like, and I'm like, okay, well, this is how you cycle because he's perfect at it.
he's doing it. Yeah.
I'll use all
I
those.
definitely. Nah, you go.
Okay, I see him. I see him. Good. So
Okay, yeah, they're trying
it's
to
gonna
go there
take me
now.
just a
Let's see.
second here to video saved. Got the clap going. Do you know who the great Willie Banks was? You familiar with that name?
No, I'm not.
He was a UCLA long and triple jumper back in the day before I got
Hmm.
there. I got there in the early 80s. And Willie's just a few years older than I am, so he'd already been. And he competed, overseas when that was first becoming popular. So he would go over there, and he was. I had him on a podcast a while back. It's been 2 or 3 years
Hmm.
now, but he is responsible for developing the whole clapping before you jump thing. He used to do
Right.
that.
Oh, that's really cool.
over in Europe.
That's,
Yeah. He's
that's sick.
That's his claim. Now I'm gonna just say I trust him because he's a vaunted fellow Bruin, but
Hmm.
I was not there to see it. Yeah, that one of these jumps I just watched, you got really good rotation on. Um, I don't know which height it was. It was one of the makes. So you sent me the 371 misses.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I want to
rotation
say
good.
the one where it's like gray in the background. Those are you can like see the little thing in the back to make sure that they're 7-1. I'm not too like
Mhm. Right,
super
right.
positive
Yeah, I don't
that
the
they're
height itself with me is another thing. I mean, I'm interested, to a point, but then I'm also like, um, it's more important to me, especially as a teacher and coach, is, the position that's being hit
hmm
as opposed to, the bar height. Lots of times, if we're looking at whatever it is that we're looking at, I'm like, hey, it's important that we hit this position, because you and I both know
Yeah.
you can make jumps with terrible attempts and you can
Oh
miss
yeah.
with tremendous jumps, where you're like, man, I did
Hmm.
so many things right. How did the bar come down? You know, and it's
Got
like,
so
well,
high, just
you were
slammed
either
it
a little
in.
too close or you were a little too this or, whatever it was. But, uh,
Hmm.
it's so it's hard, with the kids that I'm training sometimes to just go, like you said, you're obviously becoming more mature and you're jumping and, like you're saying, learning how to wait and control things. It's like, and with the high school kids, it's not really their fault. They just don't have any experience yet. You're just like, hey,
Yeah, of course.
I'm giving them all these little tidbits of things that I learned, competing at some decently high levels. So it
Hmm.
doesn't always take.
It doesn't click yet though.
Yeah, it doesn't always take, immediately. Okay, so I'm going
Yeah.
to share screen with you, and I've got your downloads here. So let's pull up the first one. Oh, we got a couple. Okay, I'm gonna make it bigger.
Myself clear 7 feet.
Don't know if you can see it or not. It's not letting me make
Yeah, I
it.
can see it.
Okay, now I can make it bigger. There we go. There we go. Let's get this guy out of the way. Move that up there. Let's see if I can stretch it a little bit more.
So that's the starting height. This wasn't the greatest jump, but whatever.
I would
For the
break.
sake of
Yeah. Okay.
analysis.
So now, tell our viewers again, you're listening to Raise the Bar with Troy Haynes, and this is Kierson. Kierson, what's your last name?
Wicks.
Kierson Wicks. And he's from a small school in Illinois, which is called again
McKendree.
McKendrick. Yeah, it's my first time hearing that one. And
Mhm.
here he comes. Now I'm seeing some pretty good cycling. Okay. For those of you that aren't conversant with that term, I'm referring to getting your knees up and kicking yourself in the butt with your feet as you're running, which will ensure longer strides as you're coming
Mhm.
into takeoff. And I see a really good lean back angle here from this. Not my favorite angle, but some angles are good for seeing just that, the lean back.
Mhm.
Um, a nice heel toe there to lean back and get things going. You can notice right here, if you watch your right foot as you're cycling through,
Yeah.
there you're kicking yourself in the butt all the way through the curve, which is essential. So you started your curve, right? One, two, and so it's here. One, two, three, four, five. And then if you watch your right foot, it's kicking your butt, kicks you in the butt again, actually a little bit
Mhm.
smaller, and then almost a scrape, I'm guessing, right? Or a scrape.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I do scrape my foot. Definitely not a good thing, but it's just been a built-in habit now.
oh no, no, don't. You're preaching the choir. So the cycling through the curve is not always the easiest thing to do. And then I've told this story many times, Kierson, where I've gone out and made these statements over the years that have turned out to be patently false, which was I said I never thought that anybody would be able to scrape their feet and jump over 7.4 or 7.5.
What was
And
it, Shelby, right?
uh
Is he
what was that?
straight? The Shelby scrape, McEwen?
I'm almost willing to bet yes. I have to watch the camera angles are so bad at the Olympics that I don't always get to pick up a lot, but
Uh-huh.
it depends on the day and which one. But the I was at Mount Sac out here. Excuse
Hmm.
me. and it's a decent, sized venue. They just rebuilt it. It's got Nike money flowing through it. It's in LA.
It's
There's
nice.
rumors that they wanted to maybe do the trials here, but Oregon's always got that. But both of those are Nike places, so we're not sure. And I
Hmm.
keep thinking I would still hold if it were me, I would hold the Olympic trials at the Coliseum just because of the history. But anyway, and that's what they did in '84. But um, the cycling thing, I watched this guy from Texas Tech scrape his foot and jump 7.5 3/4. And I'm like, you know what? Wrong again. Like how can
Yeah,
you consistently be this wrong? So I would say that now it's not ideal. But then I also did a
of
podcast with
course.
this kid named Fabian Delrid from Sweden. And
Hmm.
I saw him on Instagram. Oh,
Oh, I think I know you're
and
talking about Fabian. He's
yeah,
like the 6'9" guy,
yeah.
abnormally strong.
Yep. And he's jumped
Yeah, I know
seven
what you're
seven and
talking
three
about.
quarters. Yeah. And he's a scraper, big
Uh-huh.
time. Like I watched the dust trail because it was an outdoor meet and you can
Uh-huh.
see it. And the funny thing is when he started off as a single armor, and when he was a single armor, he would run with high cycling and wouldn't touch the ground. But when
Uh-huh.
he powered up with the double arm, then he started dropping down low. So he
Yeah.
scraped 7. Then I got someone sent me either a text or something and said, Charles Austin scraped his foot when he jumped 7.10 1/2 and set the American and the Olympic record. And another guy
Uh-huh.
sent me said, and you know that Barshim scraped his foot at 8 feet. And I was like,
Really?
yeah, so I'm like just doubling down on being wrong. So it's
I
like,
guess it's just a more of a penultimate thing. So when you get that reach, because I have a really strong reach when I reach for my penultimate, it's almost like my right leg has no choice but to scrape on the ground,
yeah,
almost because I'm reaching so far. And then I'm assuming because Barishim Muta, I don't know how to say his name very well, but he's more of a, I don't know, it's like a power jumper, and I don't know what to call the other people. They just kind of start floating.
yeah.
And he's definitely the guy where he just starts floating, and I guess he really had to put some oomph or like that power
He's
that
so
he doesn't.
fast. He's a I
He is.
It's a great argument. What you're bringing up is a
It's
classic argument of power versus speed, right? So
yeah.
technically the speed jumpers would be the single armors because they're running so
Hmm.
fast and they don't look like they really load up. They just hit their
Yeah.
position. But they're the ones that usually tend to hit better leans
The
because they're
higher
running
marks.
faster and they
Uh-huh.
really, come up off that, but they don't always ride their knees, and it depends, it really depends. Now, Stephen Holm, who jumped 7.11 1/2 at 5.11 1/2, I've got video of him and he was just a knee.
Oh my goodness.
You just leave his knee up, the whole
Yeah.
time. So that's a great thing about the high jump. It's just there are things that are proven that work that are true, and but everybody's different, and some things work for
Hmm.
some people and they wouldn't work for others. Um,
Yeah.
I'm looking at right here, your last two. I'd like if it was me, I'd be like, hey, let's try to start getting heel toe. I don't know if you can see right there. I got you hitting your foot flat on
Uh-huh.
the left or on the right. That's going to turn into your knee drive. Um,
Hmm.
and that would accentuate your already really good lean back angle because you can see that coming on your last step here, the left. And the other
Yeah.
thing would be to try to straighten out your left leg a little bit, if you could.
Hmm.
And then,
Probably take the load off my knee as well doing that.
yes, exactly. If it starts bent, it's going to bend more. If it starts
Uh-huh.
straight, it may bend less, as you come through.
Uh-huh.
It's not going to lock, but
Of course.
you want to have it not deflect that much.
Yeah.
As I watch here on this jump, all you did was pop that knee up and then and just ride it. So your rotation on this one was caused, I think, by the really good lean back angle and the acceleration through because um, the great Doug Nordquist, who's
Pretty
a,
big
a
jump.
jumper here in the U.S., jumped 7.8 3/4. I'm gonna go golfing with Doug on Monday. And his coach was my former coach, Alan Hankel, and we were doing a clinic about a month ago about this
Hmm.
very thing. And we are talking about how some athletes get tremendous rotation and it's the speed and the angle, and the acceleration through takeoff that cause a
Yeah.
lot. 'Cause if you watch this, your rotation's so good, you almost land on your hands and feet like a cat here, So
I wish it
I
was
was
more like that. Oh boy.
well, there's the same thing I've seen, if you watch the 2016 Olympic final with,
Uh-huh.
Barshim and Drown from Canada and
Canada.
Bondarenko,
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
one, all three of them are outrageously good at rotating at the highest
Hmm.
heights. I mean, Derek Druin, which it's still one of the most amazing things I've seen because Barshim was by far at that time on top of the high jump world, except
Yeah.
Druin came in that year and won the worlds and then just blew everybody away at the Olympics and did not miss until the bar was at 710. I mean, he made everything on his
Wow.
first jump.
Uh-huh.
And for the first time ever, I saw Barshim panic and threw his head back early on one jump. And that was really the only one, but that was the gold right there. Then he made it on his second,
Hmm.
and he was never going to catch up. And Bondarenko was just playing Bondarenko games. He's, opened at 7-4, missed a couple times at one, finally made it. And then, once he missed and they were going ahead of him and making him, he would just keep passing. So he
Yeah.
passed and tried to jump the height that Druin was jumping in. He couldn't, he just couldn't get it together. But when they were
Yeah.
making their jumps, they were spinning like you were doing here, but these were like at 7-6, seven,
Yeah.
eight,
And
with
I definitely start to lose it. And I guess I'd hope that maybe you would know how are they able to maintain the rotation of the bar at such like when you because this here I'm not jumping that high up, rather I
right.
am into the bar,
Yeah.
but
Well, like you said,
it's really hard.
part of it when you
Uh-huh.
watch through vertical, it depends. There's a bunch of things that I'm teaching and out there. If you're listening, especially if you're a high schooler and you haven't been taught these things by your coach yet, either at the high school or college level. The chief
Hmm.
goal, which Kierson just mentioned, is trying to jump straight up. So the game is really hitting vertical. So I'm going to stop the tape right there when you watch your heel snap and you go straight, bang, right there. Now I can't tell from this angle. From this angle, you look pretty straight up and down. But even here, you can see your left shoulder is higher than your right. So you're kind of
Hmm.
going across just a little bit. But from this height, probably not a big deal, like you said. Now maybe just a few inches up, you might have had trouble. But your head's going back, going by, and look where your knees are. My goodness, your knees just keep
Yeah.
continuing going up. Now, my guess, I would have thought you might be a little close on this jump. It's hard to tell from this angle, though. Like I said,
Close to the bar.
yeah. How tall are you,
Yeah.
Kirsten?
6'1".
You're 6'1" and you weigh can't be
Yeah.
more than what, 135, 140?
All right, 145.
145, yeah. So you're
Yeah.
tall and light. The great Hollis Conway was built a lot like you, 6'1",
Hmm.
130 maybe. I don't know if I'm doing Hollis a disservice. I'm sure he'll send me a note. I did get to jump against Hollis once. I made it to the NC2A finals in Division One my senior year, and he was
Uh-huh.
there. And one of the many that ended up jumping higher than I did. I didn't get All American like you. I got ninth place, so I just missed
I
being an
was
All
say
American the one time I did
I
go.
gotta I gotta get a All-American at Division 1 meet and then I'll really
Right?
feel it. Of course, I'm Division 2 right now, but I know I'll be good for next year. I'm
Yeah,
gonna I'm coming in better than ever.
yeah.
I'm already ready.
So what I'm seeing is a great double arm block, and the hands are very high overhead. I preach that. There's a guy that
Hmm.
is going to be jumping either with you or against you soon. I don't know if you've seen him, Jordan Randall. On he's from
Yeah,
Indiana.
yeah.
He's only 5'8" and he's
He's
jumped 7'2.5".
he's a
And
junior. I've
he's a
texted him
junior.
before.
Yeah, yeah,
Man, he is very uh, oddly springy for his height. It's like
yeah.
I don't I don't know what he does
Well,
to
he's
be so
fast
bouncy at
and
such
he
a
does
youth.
what a
He's
lot of what
good.
you're doing here. Your hands are very high, which means you've changed your
Uh-huh.
center of mass quite a bit by bringing them up. And the knee drive is really high too. And he's been trained to leave that up, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and the one thing I see here is that you're not working this position over the top. Like you said, here, your head just kind of naturally goes back. What I would do here is notice how your arms are splayed out here, long.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't
Hmm.
affect rotation as much when they're out here. It's worse when they're straight up overhead. So if you drop them out
Uh-huh.
to your sides like this, it doesn't really affect the length of your body and how fast you spin. But the classic position would be hands on top of your hips or your right hand reaching for your left heel if you were a single armor. You know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
you
Isn't it like
either
can I also say reaching for the mat?
Right, right. Reaching for the
Uh-huh.
mat or reaching for your heel or whatever. I've got a couple different ones I love watching. I don't know if she ever listens to the podcast, but a gal named Betsabe Paez, who's from Argentina.
Hmm.
She's only 5'6", I think. She's this little pixie from Argentina. She might even be
Hmm.
5'4", I can't tell. And she has one of the most beautiful teardrop layouts you'll ever see. It's right there at the top of her feed. I just watched it one day. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like perfect timing
Like
layout, the high
wraps
beat,
around the bar
everything.
almost, huh?
Yeah, just, and kind of that flowy thing that the single armors get where there's not really ever a point where she all of a sudden throws her head back and really hammers her hips or anything. It just kind of has this flow
Uh-huh.
to it,
Naturally.
but it's fun to watch. But so you either reach for the heel or not, or you can bring your hands back. So I think even
Hmm.
here, like if you look at this position where your feet, your head, your hips are high, but those hands are out. And it didn't matter
Yeah.
in this because it's a lower bar, but I do think it
Hmm.
would slow down rotation later. Here it didn't matter because it was
Yeah.
like you might as well have been jumping
I
over
remember.
6 feet or something the way you got up because your knees right there are I don't know how high
Yeah.
over the bar, but the length from your hip to your knee is like a foot and a half. So that's a
Yeah.
great knee ride and all that. What were you gonna say?
I'll say my coach was talking to me about that earlier today. How you see my arms, I throw them back towards, which is also like cancels a little bit of my rotation. A
Yes.
small amount, but like I mean, it plays a factor at these huge heights.
Yeah.
And then I really need to work on reaching for the bar. I haven't been able to work on that this week because I kind of used my jumping day for something different. If I
Right.
can go back in time, I would do drills to start reaching. But hopefully I can put it together at this meet this week. That'll be like my takeaway for
Oh,
sure.
hold on. We got me I'll dim down the volume, although I do like to clap. So once I start looking at slow motion, we'll be able to hear it anyway. Um, which jump was this one? Do you remember?
I think I had 7-1. So this is probably like my second or third attempt. Yep, it's this one. I did some like weird hip hitch thing. And then
Yeah.
like the height on this bar is just like, man, I jumped 7-1 better than I jumped 7 feet.
You never
I'm
really gather, do you? I don't see it. I don't see a gather.
what do you like a penultimate? My penultimate step?
No, getting your arms ready. You don't bring your hands together at any time. It looks like you just keep running. Is there a little hitch anywhere in there? You just kind of
There.
right here
Uh-huh.
maybe is a little natural hitch, and then they both come back together, so they're behind you. So I keep
Uh-huh.
trying to get my guys to get their hands back behind them. Like if you're gonna be a double armor, they better be behind
Yeah.
so you can use them to get air, right?
Maybe you could try a drill with jumping off 2 feet because I think that naturally comes because I'm naturally a 2-footed jumper and I say that because I have like decent knee pain, right? If I didn't have as much knee pain, I'd probably be a 1-footed jumper.
Right,
But from playing basketball and whatnot, I mean, if you're gonna go and run and try to jump the rim, you're not gonna not swing your arms if you jump off 2 feet. Like you're
right.
gonna have to bring it back.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that develops from.
Well,
I have to,
volleyball too. I mean, any time,
yeah,
as
uh-huh.
a double
Especially
armor, if you
volleyball.
don't use your arms to get off the ground, you've got trouble. So I do all kinds of hurdle drills and, anytime they do boxes off 2 feet or 1 foot, it depends.
Hmm.
The single armors, I train them a different way, but here you're this, like you said, this is at 7-1 too, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and here, right here, pretty close to vertical. If you watch this, now you see a slight
Hmm.
inclination of your shoulders towards the bar. Really hard to resist at that point. You didn't throw your head back right away. Now, here, I think you could pull your head towards your heels harder. Once
Yeah.
you've broken the plane of the bar with your head going through due to your speed, right? Then you're
Hmm.
just once you've got the room, now's the time. And you waited. Like I said, if someone's throwing their head back during this phase right here, when you're on the ground, you're still in takeoff. And I see
Yeah.
lots of athletes that already have their heads back. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And as the bar goes up, I don't know if you did this or not. You can take my advice or leave it. But all my all my coaches, when I started jumping at higher heights, 7'3.5" my senior year, my little Romanian coach was like, "Hey, every time the bar goes up, you need to move back at least two,
Yeah.
at least two
Hmm.
minimum, because you're going to put more speed into the base of that parabolic orbit that you're going into, which is going to make it a
Yeah.
wider base because nobody gets better at hitting vertical as they run faster. If you can hit straight up vertical, even at higher and higher speeds, you're like from another planet because it's just harder to do. So there's going to be a
Yeah.
little bit of a wash through, but as long as you've got the extra room, you can still ride it all the way up the top and you can deal with the bar, you know. So one of
Hmm.
the things I'm always telling my athletes is get away from the bar if you can. You know, if you're some people, it's really hard to change them. You know, if they're used to taking off close and
Yeah.
it's kind of worked its way into their mechanics. Like they'll drive their knee up and then they drop their knee and throw their head back because they're out of time because they're so
Hmm.
close. You got to get into the right position. So you really can't ride your knee for long. But I'm always like, okay, well, that's not a positive, you know. So, but you know, you try to break them out of it. The one thing I've learned about people being too close to the bar is they tend to drive
Yeah.
their knee across really well because if they don't, they're just going to hit the bar with their heads, you know.
Going up. Yeah.
So it's a good drill in some ways. I've started incorporating. I'm like, hey, we're going to work on getting your knee across. So I'm going to shove you right up against the bar, and you better drive
Hmm.
your knee across, or you're not going to get any air at all. But
Yeah.
you know, it's a game. You know, between can I get farther out and not bail? You know, because you get really far out there, and it's like, am I really going to make it
Hmm.
into the pit? And it's like, yeah, you're a 20-foot long jumper in high school, right? You're a 7-foot high
Yeah.
jumper. You're gonna land in the pit. You know, your speed's going to get you over there for sure. So yeah, right here, best position. What I do here, Kierson, is I'd put a big circle around your best position. So you know, the circle computer drawn, it would go
Uh-huh.
have the edge of your head, your knee down through your foot and back to your head, right? And if anything's poking out, like your arm or something, I draw a little arrow and I say, let's tuck this back in. You know, like I'll
Hmm.
show a little arrow going, bring it back to your hips or whatever, or
Yeah.
connect, you know, one or the other. But that would be a very tiny thing. I think I'm I'm looking at here. It looks like your hips came right down at the end. You had plenty of room, you know, with the rotation.
Yeah.
Now it wasn't quite as good as a rotation like you noticed earlier. You're doing the Dontavius Hill kind of backside reverse look spin, which
Yeah.
you're doing now. He's doing, and the great Stephen Holm did off the one leg. That was another one. Oh, I got to tell the story because I think I said before that I used to make these statements that you know nobody could ever do this and jump well. So
Yeah.
I was just taught, you know, coming from the same side as you, that when I jumped, it was either head straight back or head straight back and to the right, but not left.
Hmm.
I was like, I used to tell this to my kids too. I go, if you turn your head the other way, and it was only because it was true. From what I had seen people
Hmm.
look over what I called the wrong shoulder, and they would start to reverse corkscrew and they wouldn't get the right air because they were doing it too early. And so
Yeah.
the key was once you're up and your head is broken the plane and your knee is up at the bar height, those are all what I call prerequisites for really hammering your layout. Then it doesn't really matter is my new position. Head straight
Uh-huh.
back, eyes open or closed, head straight back into the right, eyes open or closed, or head straight back into the left. Because I've seen you, I've seen Dontavius, I've seen Michael Millslegel. I don't know if you know Michael. He's another
Nah, I
D2
haven't heard of
guy.
that one.
He's an NAIA guy. That's probably why you don't know him. But he's like a four-time champ or something. I forget his stats.
Dang.
And he jumped 2.5 back in 2024 and made it to the trials. So I think
Hmm.
is the B standard, right? So uh but he does that too. When he looks back right there, for whatever reason, you get that backside spin that you guys get,
And
which I
then I'm
actually
landing on the side of my body.
yeah, I've messed around with
Uh-huh.
it and I can get myself to do it. I just got to look the wrong way.
That
What I
started happening
what
this
I call the
season
wrong
though.
way. Yeah.
It just kind of happened like
Yeah.
randomly and then just kind of deal with it now. I enjoy landing like that more because I it takes the risk of me landing like
Yeah.
awkwardly on my neck.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
definitely enjoy
Well,
landing a
here's
little
my
more
other argument
sideways.
about that. There's just a post today that came up, and it's a young man that I had on another podcast. He trained
Hmm.
with, was trained by, and now coaches the great Stephen Holmes' son. So he worked with Stephen Holm, and he still does, because before he was being
Uh-huh.
trained by him, but now they're kind of co-training Stephen's son. And he and I were talking, and I said, you know, when people are in their best position, it's become increasingly obvious to me that when people say, "Oh, when you're clear, you should pull your hips down." I don't believe that. I don't believe that's true anymore. I used to think, oh, well, okay, you say, oh, I got to pull, right? I got to pull my feet over. I don't think you have to pull your feet
Honestly,
over at
no.
all. I
You
think
just
you
gotta like kind of ride
stay.
it. It's just your bar
Yeah,
position is good
stay
enough.
in that position. And if you do it
Yeah.
right, I don't think you, especially with the height you're getting, I don't think you would have to worry about landing on your neck at all. I think you would do just like Druin
Backflip.
and Barshim and those guys. You would just land on your, hands and feet, face
Yeah,
down,
hopefully I get to that
mat.
point. That's pretty cool. The backflip
So
over like
I'm
seven
gonna,
times.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It is kind of a backflip, but it's a different kind of backflip because usually, what do people do when they backflip? They tuck their knees, and when you tuck your knees, your
Yeah.
butt drops. As soon as you pull your
Hmm.
knees up, as soon as we get that forward bend where my chest touches my knees, my butt is down, and that is
Yeah.
not what you need to do. You need to stay with your hips up and just spin, right? So instead of
Yeah.
knees up at any point, you just ride it and wait. And I've got videos. I'm gonna start showing those. I've got to learn how to spot people in the pit like a gymnastics coach when they're doing backflips,
Hmm.
so I can make
Hmm.
sure they get all the way over. Because some people are fearful, right? If they're not raised as gymnasts, they're like, I don't know if I can do a backflip. It's like, well, so here, let's spin you around and land you. What is this young man's name? I gotta see if I here it is. Henrik Toms. Henrik Toms.
Hmm.
THOMS. He's got 10.4 followers. It's one of his posts. I'm just going to arrow it to you here. Kierson, there you are. Okay, so I'm sending it to you, just for you. But anyway, and you'll see a lot of the same things. Like he doesn't even tuck his arms back, and he's still landing a complete flip. Now it's off a high box. Yeah, all those things are true, but I still think the dynamics are there. The other thing that's different about it, um, and this is something that I've been developing, is I love the two-footed backover to start, but I think it's a bad habit to get into too long because we don't take off of one foot. So
Uh-huh.
I've developed what I call the one-legged backover, which is just standing on one leg, and you got to drive your arms and your knee up like you would anyway. You just got your back to the bar already. You don't have to drive the knee around. You're just standing there, but you can still drive your arms up and then you can hit your position. And you're in the advantageous position of trying to learn how to deal with the one knee and the other knee going in opposite directions, because
Yeah.
you're
That's
doing
pretty
a
cool.
two-footed backover, everything's already balanced for you. So, but it's very useful for, learning how to punch your hips, learning
Uh-huh.
how to get in that really nice bridge position. So
I'll definitely try to implement that because I like that because I have a clear issue with slamming my hips down into the bar.
yes,
So if I can
yes,
try to implement more reaching for the ground and just kind of letting my body just do
yeah.
its course over
Now
the
you can see
bar.
on this one here, it may be, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. If
Hmm.
you're real flexible, maybe you have tight hip flexors, or maybe your
I
hips.
do. Yeah.
So
My hips don't
that's,
go very far forward.
I mean, man, my coach, little Elias, he'd crack you. I still hear his voice in my head to this day. He's
Yeah.
left, God bless him, but he'd be like, "You tall man, come here. You very stiff. Come here. You sit on this." And he'd put me on one of the steeples, from steeplechase, or those
Uh-huh.
gates that would close to block the track so people didn't run in lanes 1 through 5. He's like, "Here, you lay
Uh-huh.
back on this and try to get your head and your feet together." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking
Woo.
about?" And I was not flexible. So that was more just grueling, pain for me. But
Hmm.
I could do it. I could get up on it. I could do it on a high bar. I've still demonstrated to people. I can, you know, kip up and get myself up on top of a bar, sit there,
Yeah.
then get it set just right and lean back and let my feet hang over one end, let my upper body hang over the other, and just hold and let drop into a layout
Hmm.
position with that bar right under it's got to be right under your hips. If you put it in your low
Oh,
back,
I think I know exactly.
it'll kill
Like
you.
you're like on the mat. I think I have an idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So, I mean, but that's nitpicky, right? I mean, I don't think
Hmm.
some people are just outrageously bendy and some aren't, but I mean, this basic
Yeah.
position you're in, what is the
So,
key to getting rotation is you get tall at takeoff, right? Which is what you're doing.
hmm.
You're hitting tremendous vertical because you get your hands up and you're already 6'1". and you're going to get longer than 6'1" with your hands over your head. So what do you do immediately? You bring them down. Now, see, you keep extending that other one. Now, I would say the way you do this, there's that reach for the pit, right? You could reach for the pit with the
Just
right
keep
arm,
going.
and then
Yeah.
see how the left arm is flailing around. Once
Yeah.
you're off the ground with that one, just drop it. It's really unnecessary. You don't need
Just
it.
like put it to my side,
Yeah,
pretty
see how
much.
it's kind of pinwheeling around, and
Yeah, it's just kind of going wherever it wants.
it's
Yeah.
doing a lot of extra work there, and you never know what the effect is on you. Are you, spinning through the air exactly the way you would if you were to remove that? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So what I'm going to coin this phrase right now on this podcast, but I use it all the time to the kids. I say, look, I want you to go from tall to small when you're horizontal. So when you're tall right here and you're still going up,
Yeah.
you can bring
Uh-huh.
your hands down. And what does everybody do with this takeoff leg right here? You're doing it right now. Watch. You're going to pick it up. As soon as you're done driving up off that left leg, you swing it up
That.
to get shorter, right? So I always just show the
Uh-huh.
kids, I go, look, with my hands over my head, standing up tall, I'm like 7'3" or what, I'm 6'3". So if I hand my hands up, I've got to be at least 7'5" or 6. So I go, now I'm gonna bring
Hmm.
my arms back down. Well, now I'm down to 6'3". And then I get down on my knees. I go, if I swing my legs up, I'm gonna be down on my knees, right? And they go, yeah. I go, now how tall am I? I'm like 5 feet. So I've gone from
Hmm.
7'5" down to 5 something. And that shortening is what causes the spin. It's just
Uh-huh.
conservation of angular momentum, right? You're going to get and spin faster the same way gymnasts do when they tuck. We're just
So
doing
putting my arms down
better.
would in turn, it wouldn't hurt me going up, and instead would rotate me over the bar better.
Right. You want to wait until after you're finished with a takeoff. So once I always preach, I go, once your arms are up over your head and you're off the ground, they're almost worth
Yeah.
it. They really are. You could just, if you drop them to your hips, which a lot of people do, fine. If you reach for the heel, great. Or the pit, like you said, great. And that creates that arched position. Wonderful. Another great one to watch is Elena Kulichenko, the gal from Cyprus who jumps at the University of Georgia. She just won the outdoor.
Hmm.
She came
Yeah,
in.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she's really fast. She's a single armor, but she gets that up and that arm reaches, and you can just
Uh-huh.
trace the arch from her foot to her hand, like all the way around. And it's this great, long, beautiful arc. But anyway, yeah, from tall to small, when horizontal. And if you're not going to bring your arms back here, then I like the connect because especially the way that right arm is way out there. You can see it
Hmm.
reaching way
I'm about to
out.
say if it's already over there, I just gotta just
Yeah.
build a
Just
habit of
just
reaching
write it.
down.
Yeah. So you just
Yeah.
leave it and point it at the pit
Hmm.
and then drop that one on the left right to your hip. So it's not because you might even hit the bar with that one. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's really
I think I've never have, but it wouldn't surprise me if one day I'm going up, jumping, whatever, and I end up knocking it over because of
oh,
my arm.
it's funny. I hate
It'll
being that
definitely happen.
voice. I've got a jumper, Tyler Molinowski. If you're out there listening, I'm always telling him, I'm like, dude, I keep telling you to get your hands on your hips, not past the plane of your hips. Like when he brings them down,
Yeah.
sometimes he brings them down below his hips. I go, you're gonna knock the bar off one time and you're gonna be bummed because and I could have sworn he
So
did it 6'6" this last weekend. Go
where
ahead.
I have my where this video is paused right now, that will be my time to bring my left arm to my side, pretty much. Just kind of
Yeah.
glue it to my knee.
Yeah, you're done.
Okay.
At
And
that
then that
point,
would
you
help
just
in turn with
drop
my
it.
rotation, and then other
Yeah.
arm reach.
Yeah,
Boom.
exactly.
Cool.
You know what
Cool.
I'm saying?
Cool. Cool.
If you
Yeah.
watch, I'm telling you, if you watch 90, I think it's every arm style. And
Uh-huh.
this is how long I've been doing this, but my brain separates people into how they use their arms because the knee drive and everything else is pretty similar. Do they leave
Hmm.
it up or not is a whole nother argument, but everybody's got to have a decent knee drive up and across, for the most part. Although I do,
Yeah.
Sotomayor was a little under rotated and so was Charles Austin, but
Hmm.
they're so strong it didn't matter. And they didn't need to get all the way, perpendicular to the bar with their, shoulders, hips, things. But if you watch almost everybody that has Fosbury, even when Fosbury came up, he
Yeah.
reversed his arms. So if he's coming from the left side and he puts his right foot on the ground, then his right arm was up and his left arm was back, and then he would switch them just like he was a long jumper.
To
So
have a
right away,
match.
his backside arm is dropping to his hip. Then if you're a
Uh-huh.
single armor, you lead with that single arm, and that backside arm should just drop to your hip. There's no reason for it to do anything else. If you're a
Hmm.
double armor, You can take them both up and bring them both down, or you can bring them both up and reach with the one and bring the other one down again. But it's always the
Hmm.
backside arm that drops, you know. And the
Yeah.
only time, the one that I'm really interested to try when I get a gymnast type, have you seen any of the jumpers now that are using no arms at the takeoff?
Like no arm swing?
Yeah. There's a gal that came in the Olympics. Hall, was her name Hall or Reese or Hall
Uh-huh.
Reese or something? She was like, she's a tall gal. And I think she was our number one. And if she didn't win
Wow.
the heptathlon high jump, she was right up there. But when she runs up,
Hmm.
you know, on her second to last step, one arm starts coming up, and then on the last step, the other one comes up. So both of her arms are above her head as she's putting her
Uh-huh.
plant foot on the ground. So there's no arm swing.
That's oh, the Canadian guy. Well, but I guess he uses his other arm. He uses his right arm would be the
Yeah,
arm that he swings with for the
Druin
one thing
gathered, but
jumper.
then he let the two
Uh-huh.
get apart. She literally
Yeah.
has both arms up over
Arms
her
up.
head as her heel is hitting the ground. There's going to
I
be
feel like
no,
there's no benefit from that.
well, there is though. Here's the argument,
Uh-huh.
because she's tall and she's thin and she's fast and she's got some great quads. You watch her legs, you're like, okay, she's strong as an ox. Like
Uh-huh.
these heptathletes are strong. And so
Yeah.
she's flying up there, but when she gets both hands over her head, she's got to be minimum 5'10". She looks like she may be a 6 footer. Okay.
Hmm.
Hands up over her head. I'm guessing her hands are up close to 7 feet. So all she's
Uh-huh.
done is raise her center of mass prior to takeoff, right?
Mm.
Once you get there,
Hmm.
like you said, you're not going to get any arm swing. So now it's got to be my drive knee, you know, my knee drive and my push leg, which I
Uh-huh.
usually emphasize with most people. I'm like, your left leg just kind of does what it does. You know, I do a lot of work with what are you doing with your arms and what are you doing with that drive knee, but I don't necessarily, you know, attack the takeoff leg other than, you know, make sure it's straight, make sure it's pointed towards the back left corner, you know, and
Yeah.
try to go heel toe off that one. But my theory is that the drive knee does most of the work, you know,
Hmm.
canceling out a lot of things. But yeah, it's interesting. And I, with the double hands overhead, I'm almost like, you know, it's just like when you watch it in the arch, if they don't bring their hands back, they could look like they're doing like that drill when you push up into your back arch with your arms and your legs straight.
Yeah.
And that's many times when you see people in that position. I had a jumper that was so stiff in the air, and I go, "Can you do one of those back bend things?" And when he did it, he was really good. Like I went, "Wait a minute."
Really.
I'm like, "Dude, you're never in that position. Wait, you
Over the
should do
bar.
that in the air, right?"
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's interesting. But the backside arm for you, I would say for
Yeah.
sure, as soon as you're done, right here, bam,
Boom.
and
Just
right there.
drop it.
Yep.
Just get used to like splitting my arms. One up, one
Yes.
down.
And you know the best, this is my new theory on that. I preached it for years, but this year I'm kind of doubling down on it, both due to injuries and also just because I think after dealing with athletes and learning and teaching very specific movements at high speed, my thought is number one, I've got a checklist of things that I look for when I'm breaking down video that's almost 2 pages long. They're just
Hmm.
little nuances of things that I think, you know, the devil's in the details, right? When you start
Hmm.
cleaning up little things, they add and sometimes they
Of
multiply
course.
to what you're doing. So it's like, but you know, I did this with Barbara Bachoka, my number one from Canada. She came down here, jumped 187 a couple of years ago, and she told me, "Hey, can you write down all the things that you've taught me?" Because she came down specifically to work with me after watching some of my drills. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
let's go, you know. So we start working, and she goes, "Can you tell me, you know, write down a list?" And I literally wrote her a list of about a page and a half. And that's not saying anything other than the fact that there's a lot of information on that page and a half, and you cannot possibly think about all of those things as you're running towards a high jump bar.
Of
So
course.
what I came up with then was I go, well, why don't we start doing this and walk it through? Like same way that you would visualize. I mean, walk your perfect high knees, feet to your butt,
Hmm.
something straight, lean a little bit, drop into your curve, swing your arms, whatever your gather and jump sequence is, whether you're a double, a single, or whatever, like get
Hmm.
everything. and just slow it down so that you can get every single element right, you know, and then go through it, knee up and around, hands up over your head, and I'll have them turn their back to the bar, and then almost
Yeah.
like in a fallback drill, like you could do that standing in the pit if you wanted to, or right next to your bed or something. And I'm like, but I'm trying to get, especially some of the young jumpers, to, because I think sequencing is a really big thing. I'm like, hey, you're running a straight line. Now you're running a curve. Now you're taking off. Now you're learning how to wait, like you were talking about earlier. And now at a certain point, you're going to do this very
Put it
specific
all
motion
together.
like you're talking about. I'm gonna leave
Hmm.
this arm here. I'm gonna reach here. And that's
Yeah.
something for me, I would say you could practice that immediately. Just go stand in the
Yeah,
pit,
I can just, yeah,
put your knee up, put that arm over there, and then start to fall. And
just
as you're
fall.
falling, just drop that arm to your side and reach the other one down and
Yeah.
drop your hip.
I'll probably do that tomorrow. Just try to build it in my head so I can try to implement it this Saturday.
Exactly. And the
Definitely.
tough part is getting the sequence down because it's a complex
Uh-huh.
issue. People don't think that through. It's like, how do we actually learn how to do this new movement? You have to learn it and it has to stick itself
Yeah.
in there. It has to become a motor pattern that you can repeat, you know.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got lucky and you hit it once, and you're like,
Yeah.
I remember that one time I did this. But it's like if you practice it enough, I think you can get it. But it's so hard to do at full speed. It's very, very difficult. So,
Yeah.
who the great Dwight Stones is, high jumper. If you
I have
don't,
not heard that name,
you-
no.
okay. So Dwight Stones is former American record holder, multiple time world record holder he made his first Olympic team in 72 when he was still in high school. In
Hmm.
76, he went to Canada, took
Ooh.
bronze and jumped
Uh-huh.
there was rain up in Canada. They left the roof open. There's this big controversy. He wore a shirt, I think, saying "I hate French Canadians," and then later on softened his tune when he got a backlash. But always controversial, but always a really good jumper, a great technician, and his achievements were a long list. But he broke the world record at 7'7" and a quarter. This is back,
Hmm.
76, 77, somewhere there. I think he broke the world record 2 weeks after coming in third at the Olympics. Like he was kind of pissed off. He went and broke the world record. So, what was my point? How did I get to Dwight? We were talking about, visualization.
The small. Yeah.
He is, he was one of the first that I remember who was and was very open and said, this is something that I do that's very worthwhile. And if you look him up, you can look Dwight Stones, it spells the way it sounds. But if you look him up
Hmm.
and show any videos on Instagram or on the internet, you'll see him sometimes before the jump, like with his head like bobbing and he's going like boom, boom,
Visualizing.
boom, boom,
Yeah.
visualizing what he's doing. And sometimes he would take his hands up and, he would go like that a few times. And I know that I saw it, and I know many other people saw it. And whether they chose to emulate it or not, there was one of those things that I learned because I became a kinesiology major. And there's classic
Hmm.
studies about visualization that say it's almost as good as full speed practice at
Yeah.
teaching, motor patterns. They can actually you can get innervation of certain muscles when they put electrodes on you when someone's visualizing that you can see those muscles are actually getting used or thinking about being used next or
Uh-huh.
whatever in
So then it makes it
sequence.
more likely to.
So yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I saw that. Eli Kasiba. You definitely heard that
Mhm.
name.
Yeah,
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 he does visualization. He walks up to the bar, there's like a little bounce type of deal.
yeah.
And he does it, him and his team, they do it for like reps. So I guess their coach like implements it into their practices and then their pre-meet
I,
ritual as
I love
well.
it.
I think I'm gonna start doing it as well. I got
I'm
like a
still
little
trying to
list of
get their
things I'm
coach
like,
on. Yeah. I did a
really?
podcast with
He
guys.
hasn't reached out, he hasn't talked to you?
He hasn't talked to me yet. I've had
That's
all of them on. Marcus has been on my podcast like
uh-huh.
3 times. I had Eli
Yeah.
and the other guy on once, and then
Uh-huh.
something happened and I screwed it up and we lost it in production. And they were kind of like they weren't sure if they wanted to put it out or not. But then I'm like,
Uh-huh.
and let's all of us do one, like all of us, you, your
Um,
coach, everybody, and we still
yeah.
have that happen because 3 of those guys went to the trials last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that coach would be a great brain to pick for sure.
Oh yeah,
Um, I mean,
absolutely.
that's
I'm
what,
more than happy.
five,
Yeah,
6 athletes.
Yeah.
He brought five male high jumpers, one girl, and he probably only has one girl high
Yeah.
jumper, and she jumps. I saw something. Oh my gosh. I saw like a picture of her jumping 5'10", and it's like her back is like a foot over the bar, but her like hamstrings are trailing so low behind. And
Right.
it's like, man, she might mess around and break the world record or something. The
Right.
way her like upper body was so high over the bar at such a high height. I'm not too sure. Oh, I think this is where it clicked. What height is this? I think this is where it started to click at. That's 207. Yep, this is
207.
6'9.5". This is where jumping up and then throwing my head back, it just
Yeah.
snapped.
And you're getting great rotation here still. So
Mm.
that is awesome. And I think even here, because I preach this too, like if you look at the angle between your hip and your knee here, it's pointed at the
Yeah.
floor. So I would still
Hmm.
say at this point, for me, I think you're still close because I can see the different distance between your foot and the standard there isn't huge. So one of the reasons I
Hmm.
head was going back so early is it's almost like it has to. And, I like to get that knee up and let it ride even longer. Because like you said, it
Uh-huh.
quote unquote, it's only 6'9", right? So 6'9", I've learned now as I'm 61
Yeah.
years old is way the heck up there. So, in high school, no, but now, yes. And I like, to see that hip pop happen later, like when you're way, way up, so that when you pop it, it's more
Uh-huh.
to the ground than pointed at the ground. But
Uh-huh.
it's because you're just carrying your speed so well here. The other thing I try to
Yeah, I
do
don't.
is
It's
I want to
crazy.
get
Yeah.
your head and your feet on the same level right here, and you're still in the
Uh-huh.
bridge. You know what I mean? You're still in the high bridge. So you're letting your butt drop right here
Mm.
as you pull your feet up, right there, you're starting to
Yeah.
come forward. Okay, so that whole move, and like we were talking about before, do we ever need to come out of position? My position would be no.
Not
Your
really, no.
position
Yeah.
here is really, really good,
I
right?
could rotate that the entire way through the jump if I just reach
Exactly.
my arm down, probably.
So here's the thing: when your head and your feet are not on the same level and you're in the high bridge, that's when I'm like,
Uh-huh.
either A, we started too early, or B, we're still in the middle of it and we should just ride it out. Because in my
Hmm.
estimation, you don't drop your butt until your head and your feet are on the same level. It actually, when your head and your head is below your feet like a slinky, then that's
Uh-huh.
when the rest of it just flips over and goes down to the next
Yeah.
step below you. It's like when you watch a slinky go downhill, it's the same thing. You go into that
Hmm.
layout, and as soon as your head gets lower than
Goes over,
your
follows it.
feet just leave the ground and flip over. It's
Follow the
exact
same
same
path
kind of
as yep.
action, you know. So
Yeah.
that would be my thing there. Like I said, I put the circle around you, and I draw a line between your head and your feet. And as soon as we go, where's the best layout position? I'm going to say it's probably there, but you can see there's
Yeah.
that line that's pointed at the ground. So that's just another thing I use. And I'm like, it doesn't,
Mm.
it doesn't let me down as far as that goes. I'm a big fan of knee drive and knee ride. Like, last year at, the Olympics, McEwen in the opening jump of the final at 7-1, he was a foot.
Yeah.
I mean, if I've ever seen anybody jump 7-1 by a foot, his was it. Because he rode his knee up to 8-1, and you could see him. He just kind of looked down at the bar and was like, "Oh, I guess I'm just
Huh,
gonna
all right.
lean back a little," because
He's a
there
really
really was
interesting
nothing
high
else to
jumper.
do, you know?
I've never seen like the power, like, because I know power jumping isn't probably the best way to really get over these extremely high bars, but he clearly proves that you can get up there as a power jumper because he does like a five-step or approach or something along that line. I want to say it's McEwen, right? Am I right?
Now, McEwen had a longer approach. He's relatively fast, but he's got the perfect build. I mean, he is a
Mm.
tall wire. He
It
is,
was somebody. I watched
yeah,
somebody jump 7'5" on like a five-step approach, and that's just how they do it. And I'm like,
yeah. I don't think
man,
that's
what am I
McEwen
even
yet, but
looking at?
that was one of the warm-up jumps. And then when Kerr beat him in the jump off, and I think
Uh-huh.
the height was 236. But you could see
Yeah.
Kerr just goes, "All right, that's it. I've had it with this. This is over." Like I pride myself in being able to see that because I remember every time I PR'd high school or college, there was never one
Hmm.
time that I was surprised. It was always like, okay. I've tried this enough times, or I'm having a great day or whatever. And you
Yeah.
can see that run
Uh-huh.
up and it's like boom, and you execute, you come up, you're like, yeah, and you're jumping around. But I was never like, oh my God, I can't
I
believe it,
really did that. I'm
And
surprised.
so
Yeah.
when you watch Kerr, he was just like, this is it. And people don't realize he's 6'7". So he's
Uh-huh.
really tall. And when he's cycling his legs, he does not look that fast because he's a long strider. So when you see him
Hmm.
accelerating through the curve, you're like, he looks like he's just kind of loping up there, but he's hauling the mail. He's getting up there pretty fast. And
Yeah.
then he's got that great lean back angle and bam, and he drives that knee up. And
Yep.
I'm telling you, I watched him ride it 4 inches over the bar. It was the same kind of thing as McEwen's. And he just says, oh, because I've seen him, go for a layout. He doesn't have a great layout, but I mean,
Hmm.
there are times when you just go for it because you're thinking this is the only way I'm going to get over. But, he just kind of popped his hip a little bit, and got it over. And I was like, holy, I'm like, man, he just drove that knee up to, 7-11 or something and said, that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's part of it. Obviously the speed of your approach. I keep preaching to everybody too. When you're leaning back on that 45, do you plant your foot at the back corner of the pit?
Like
Oh,
aim at
you a
the back
flat?
corner?
Yeah, like when you're planting your foot here, it's not down the bar plane, is it?
I don't believe so. No. It's like
But it might not
it's
be
probably pointed towards the
necessarily
back side
at
of
the
the
back
mat.
corner. It could be some like,
It might be at the standard actually.
yeah, that too. That does look, it looks flat-ish, but it's not completely flat. Because if it's flat, I've been
Uh-huh.
noticing people tend to bail through a lot more because I think it's harder
Hmm.
to stop yourself. When you stick that foot straight out in front of you, as you're coming up over that toe, I think it's going to help, hit vertical a little bit. But
Hmm.
everybody's different. And so that's why I say I try to teach them back corner of the pit on about a 45, but
Hmm.
front corner of the pit works as well. I'm just like, I don't like to get that foot parallel because it starts putting pressure on your knees and ankles.
Yeah.
I know a lot of jumpers have, trashed their ankles over time. And then,
Yeah.
like Barshim, I keep hearing now that Barshim's ankles are shot, and he hasn't jumped 7-11 in quite a while, and he used to do it all the time. He's got more jumps over 7-11 than anybody, including Sotomayor. So, uh, is there anything else we can glean from this? There's so many things. Dude, you have got a ton of potential. Like you said, these jumps at 7-1. So you did get 7 feet now, or you've got the 6'11" and you're ready to get 7 feet? Where are we at?
I got 7 feet at yeah, I got it. 7 1/4.
7 1/4, but it was after the
Yeah.
the, the D2s. So you got
So that
six
was at so I
eleven.
got 7 1/4 at D2 Nationals. And that got me eighth place All American. So
Okay,
a
so that was
PR
it
at
this week.
Nationals to get it.
So
And then the meet before that, this is the meet that I jumped 6'11 and a half
okay,
here.
okay. That's what
Uh-huh.
I'm getting messed up. Okay, so which one of these is
That's nah, I wouldn't even watch that one. All right,
that's
let me try
this
to find
one.
it. I can send it to you. So I can send you 7 foot and 6'11 and a half if I can find it like efficiently.
6'11 and a half is 211, right? Or 212. 212 is
212, yeah.
11 and a half.
Yeah, it
211,
was 212.
611. Yeah.
I
So
think
you went
it
211 and you went 214. That was your big meet. So you've got 214, but you can see, like you said, I see that extra lit. You got the build, perfect build, tall, fast, light, not supremely flexible yet. But you're
nah.
working on
Definitely probably should put a lot more effort into becoming more flexible. I don't think it would hurt. It probably actually would, like physically. But
never hurts you. All right.
is this
Yeah,
it?
it's a pretty good method here.
Okay,
Sending it
this is
from
a good one. 3 second video. All right, I'm gonna send over because all the videos kind of blur together. You know how it is recording high
Yep.
jump. You can't tell which one is which.
Oh yeah.
So three
Okay, I see.
seconds, and
So
then I
this is
think
outdoors?
this is it. The ones I sent you earlier, that was practice from yesterday.
Okay.
That was just a box drill. And then what I just sent you is
Okay, I
not
see.
the right video. So we're gonna unsend that one. And then I wish you could preview the video before you send it.
Right. Yeah.
3 seconds. Is it this one?
I've got
I think
so
it's
many
this one
videos
because
on
the
my
quality is really
phone.
bad.
I've got too many videos on my phone. Start getting error messages. Okay, I
Is
got a
that it? No,
flat
it's not
view.
that one either. Man. All right, come on.
That's a good clearance though. That one.
All right, it's a 3 second video and it's favorited. It's that one, not that one. It's not that one. So okay, then it's this one. Has to be this one. Is it this one? All right, it is this one. Cool. So that's 6'11" and a half, and then 7 feet. Let's see what that one looks like in the camera roll. I think it was one of the few like before this probably, but I don't want to send you a 30-second long video. And this one's 4 seconds. Not it. It might actually just be one of these longer videos. Wow, that's a really good jump. 25?
Bing, 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 bing. Okay.
I don't think it's this one either. And if it's not that one, then it has to be this one. Or I'm lying to myself.
Now,
Boom, not that one.
if you if
Ah,
if you jump well at D2, and is there a way that you can jump at both D2 and D1 in the same year? Like if you qualify
uh,
high enough or something, like a qualifying height that's good enough to do D1, will they let you go?
no, I don't believe so because I'm not a Division One athlete.
I
If
know.
I'd be like, probably be like the same as an unattached guy going and
Yeah.
trying to do their
I
thing
often
at
thought
a
about that though, because like you said,
nice
Grand Valley
surface.
State, they're D2, and you
Yeah,
got
but
all
they're
these
not
guys
jumping
that can jump
D2
at the
heights at
Olympic
all.
trials. So it's like, why wouldn't
Yeah,
you compete at D1
one
also? It's,
Eli's at Worlds right now,
yeah.
so that definitely puts it in perspective. It's like, all right, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. He's jumped 228 or 230 now. He jumped
Yeah,
230 this year. He jumped
he
six and a half.
jumped 230. Oh yeah, because he jumped 6'7", 6.5".
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
One
Let's take a look
second.
at
All right,
let's take a look at
and
this
I
one.
sent you the 7 foot one. So we got him in now.
All right.
They're all that time. So 6'11" and a half
All right. So
and
this is
seven
you
six.
at 6'11" and a half. See, that's right here. If you notice, the reason I'm preaching this heel toe to you is that you're still a little bit forward. If you look at the tilt
Uh-huh.
head to the knee right there.
Uh-huh. Like I'm
So
like leaning forward when I should be
yeah,
leaning
you got to be
backwards more.
leaning forward. We should be leaning back a little bit on these last two, right? So you're getting ready to take
Okay.
off. I call it like flaps up on an airplane, right? So
Uh-huh.
heel toe is like getting your flaps up. So you're doing it all basically on the last one, and then that
That's a
might,
nasty step.
yeah,
That's I feel like that's probably why my knees hurt so much because my penultimate step is so aggressive.
yeah. Well, that's something too. Yeah. Your last one is definitely the longest though, and you're really got a good long reach there. Again, if we can straighten that leg out, get you a little bit more there. Yeah, I just think
And
it's
then I was pretty good form. So
yeah,
with
yeah.
the head drop and
Again, you're
then
in a good position. I just say,
just
well,
don't write it out.
yeah, and watch that video. Like I said, do it on the boxes first. Give yourself plenty of air,
Uh-huh.
and then just see if you can't just land it on your stomach. And I don't see any reason why once you learned it, you couldn't just do it. Where it was
Yeah.
just like become your signature move. And it'd be like,
So
oh,
just like you
look,
said,
it's
so
Kierson.
like kind of replicate what that guy in the video you sent me is doing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the only difference, like I said, is you got to do it from one leg instead of two. So
Ooh, that's terrifying.
you got to get to where it depends on what you're going to do with that drive knee. You're either going to
Yeah.
drop it to match it up with the other leg, or you're going to pop it. And sometimes you'll see. Who's a great example? Javon Harrison. Javon Harrison
Hmm.
really pops. He actually pops both knees sometimes. Thing about Javon Harrison is I can never figure out what he's doing from jump to jump because none of his jumps look the same. They're like
Yeah.
they look different almost every time. I'm like, okay, is he just making it up as he goes? And then he jumped 7, 8 3/4 back in 2021.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Does he still jump?
yeah, he jumped. He just didn't make it very far this last year. He ended up on the team, but he didn't.
Hmm.
Him and the guy from Oklahoma both no-hided at the prelim.
Oh.
I think. Yeah, the at the opening round they didn't jump well, and then that's when you found out. Tamberry was hurt. He was dragging. You know, um, Barshim limped around on one jump. I was like, I couldn't even believe in the once Barshim had made 4.25 or whatever, I go 4.5 is going to do it. And then he came in at 5 and was running at the bar and just limped off. And I go, oh my gosh, I think he just popped his Achilles. So like he literally limped off and was holding his
Mm-hmm.
leg. And I'd never seen him do that before. And then he came
Mm-hmm.
back and jumped on it and made the next, after one miss, he ends up making it, but he didn't even
Oh
need to.
wow.
And I was like thinking, what did he jump 5.75 for, 5.25 for when he's already in at 4.5? But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a weird prelim. Well, hey, it's getting late on me here. I'm sure it's 2 hours later there. I don't want to be messing with your studies and whatnot, but Kierson,
Mm-hmm.
it has been a pleasure talking technique with you, and I am just totally geeked out, excited to see what happens next because you are just a whirling ball of talent. So uh, I'm honored that you thought to ask me some questions, and I'm glad we're going over this stuff. But man, you got
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot going for you. Let me know how the experiment goes with the reaching for the mat and the dropping of the back
Yeah.
arm and trying
Yeah.
to complete the flip drill and all that. But
Definitely.
looks like your career's on a meteoric rise from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm.
You get that any PR, obviously, please send me videos. Be happy to promote you. And then you get that 2.5, 3.5, get up into that rarefied air. We got to hear about
Yeah.
it. I'm sure we'll see it. Like
Oh
I said,
yeah.
I see all my good stuff on Instagram. But
Oh yeah. That's really good jumps are. Not on TikTok, but they're all on Instagram.
yeah, that's
That
what
I've
I've been
seen.
living on it for a while now. It's really the only way that I can
Hmm.
first of all, it's easier to make contact with people. And secondly, I do get to see a lot of great
Yeah.
training, from people. It's a very competitive business. Most
Hmm.
of the people that I follow are, power guys or speed guys or plow guys, or something. And then I'm
Yeah.
following particular athletes or coaches, and sometimes it's just I'll be like, how come I haven't seen this person before? And sometimes I look and they're might be following my site already. Other times they're
Hmm.
not, but if I follow them and ask them a question, then they follow me and we start talking, I'm just like, I just like feeling like I'm in the loop, with everybody and
Yeah.
see. I'd like to promote the sport, way better than it's being promoted. I think the high jump's amazing and there's a lot of great athletes. And then, a lot of
Uh-huh.
times after college, everybody just kind of disappears because it's so hard to make any money. Once you're out of college,
Yeah.
you kind of
You
got to
really
get a
gotta.
life and get a
Hmm.
job and get married. And, everybody's got a life to live. So it's like, it's really hard. And in some ways, it is really a lot like it used to be in that track and field is more like a pure, um, what do you call it, an amateur sport. There was a while
Yeah.
back when the Olympics used to be just amateurs, and then the dream team came along for basketball, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's just pay everybody, and it's like, okay, but we're not going to pay the track guys. And I was like, wait,
Nah,
how come we don't get paid? We're doing some
I'm
amazing
gonna
stuff.
say, well, channels like yours definitely bring out and highlight the sport to grow it. I mean, you go back 20 years, it's not nearly as big as it is now. And 10 years
Yeah,
from now, same deal. Every year it grows more and more,
yeah.
especially as social media grows, get more recognition in the sport, more money.
Absolutely. And I like
That's
to get
all it
a
is.
network of all the jumpers going too, because there's so many,
Mm-hmm.
great young men like yourself that I've had on these podcasts. And we're talking about a lot of the same things, over and over. And, the difficulties that the collegiate athletes have once they leave college. Dontavius
Mm-hmm.
Hill and I talked about that very thing just last year.
Yeah.
Do you stay around and become a graduate assistant simply because you'll have access to everything that you're used to having? Because when you're out on
Mm-hmm.
your own, I did that, and I left UCLA, I was out on my own and it was like, it wasn't the same. I didn't have a training
Mm-hmm.
room. If I rolled my ankle, I couldn't just hop into the training room and stick it in an ice whirlpool. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of cool things, great weight room, great facilities to train at. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces, but, hey, I'm reserving the right to get you back on here in just a couple weeks. Tell everybody when your next big meet is.
Well, I have a smaller one this week, and then I want to say 2 weeks from now, we go to a Division 1 meet at SEMO. There'll be some good competition.
Mhm.
My coach was telling me that she used to go there. She had a former teammate there. He jumps in the seven something, and
Right.
So it'd be a nice little battle between us. So I want to say 2 weeks from now on Saturday
And then you've got
is
your
that day.
Division II outdoor championships will be coming up. What in
Yeah,
is it May or April?
I think it's like probably like mid or end of May. That'll be in Pueblo, Colorado.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a
Awesome.
nice little spot to jump. I hope.
All right. Well, hey, Kierson, again, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing great things. And send me videos anytime you got any questions about anything. I'd be happy to walk through it with you.
All right, thank you. I was really enjoyed being on here.
All right.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
night.
Yep, you too. Thanks, man.
If I can figure out how to leave.
I know
All
I
right,
do
now bye.
something. All right. And that was uh, is Kierson. What was Kierson's last name? He told me. Those of you that know me, if you know me in real life, I'm absolutely terrible with last names. It was Kendrick, maybe? No, Kierson W. All right. These are the little details that have been left out. So he's got he's a freshman, D2 high jumper. High jump PR is 7 feet at 2.25, 2.14. He's an All-American. He goes to McKendree College, and it is Kierson Wicks, like John Wicks, John Wick. Okay, and Pearson, wow, love it. He's excited. He's growing exponentially. Has come from the world of what 6'7", 6'9" as a senior in high school, I think he said, and now he's all of a sudden jumped 7 feet and looks like he's got a lot more. It's an exciting time, a time in an athlete's life that I like to call stretch, where they have a lot of capabilities that they didn't know they had. You get stronger in the weight room, you get faster, your body's maturing, and you start figuring things out, and it can be really, really exciting. So we're excited to see what happens with Kierson Wicks here in the future. We're going to cut that short. I'm going to give you guys a rant here in a couple days, I think. But until next time, this is Troy Haynes of Raise the Bar. Please follow us. Reach down and hit that subscribe button. And we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as being on YouTube. So give us a follow and listen to these great young high jumpers from around the world. We just did one a couple weeks ago with the great Elena Kulachenko, who made it to the Olympic finals this last year and is now a Division I champ, both indoor and outdoor. I think she came in second at the SECs and then won the NC2As. So she's just awesome and posts all over Instagram, and is just young and full of talent. And we like to see everybody get a chance to talk to them and see how they train and see if we can steal from them and learn how to do it better ourselves. So until next time, Troy Haynes at Raise the Bar signing off. Have a great one.